In this video, we're going to look at the substring method in the Java class. This is covered in lesson 3 of our textbook. You see here substring, and then he has a more useful form of substring. I'm not sure if I agree with the word useful there, but there are two different ways to use the substring method. That's because the substring method is an overloaded method. Here we are on the exam appendix Java quick reference, and we can see how of the 5 methods of the substring class, there's actually 2 references to a substring method. Okay, I'll talk about the difference between each of those in this video. We also see that here in the method summary that substring shows up twice. And if we were to look at the source code, we see that the substring method was written in 2 different ways. Okay, it has a different set of parameters. That's what makes it an overloaded method. I'll talk about that a little bit more. So let me open up my BlueJ tester class, and I've got in a string here, lion, bear. I'm going to change that. I'm going to put in computer science. And what I'm going to do is, instead of using this int length here, you may have noticed that the substring method returns a string. So I'm going to make a new string called sub, and I will put here word1 dot substring. Okay, so I'm using a method in connection with this string. Any string class method can be applied to any string. And this string method has parentheses on the end of it. Like I said, every method has parentheses at its end. However, if we were to look back at this method's summary real quickly, okay, you'll notice that this method is expecting an integer in its parentheses. That's called its parameter. You cannot use this method unless you provide a parameter in the parentheses, and that parameter must be of type integer. And as it says, that integer is going to be an index where the substring begins at. Okay, let's take a look at what I mean by that. So I'm going to put in the number 4, for example. Okay, and then I'm going to print sub. Now what sub will be? Sub will be a new string. It's going to be related to word1. It's not going to be identical to word1. It's going to contain letters beginning at index 4 and moving over. So let's compile our tester class and run and see what we get. Okay, I got UTER science. All right, how did they come up with that? One thing to notice too is that the number 4 might not connect the way you think it would. Now, let me show you what I mean by that. If I put in some numbers here, notice that I began with the number 0, okay? And if we look at that string that popped up, okay, see how it started with the letter U? The letter U is not actually the 4th letter. It's actually the 5th letter if you're to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But that's not how strings are indexed in Java. Strings are indexed beginning with index 0. That's very, very important to remember throughout the year. We're going to be using substrings with strings throughout the entire year in this class. So we begin with the number 0, and we count up to number 4, and that's where we find the letter U. And so what the substring method did was it went to that number 4, and it took from that index to the end of the string, nothing else. Okay? Well, remember I said it's an overloaded method. There's another way to use the substring method. You can put a comma and have a second number in there. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to take characters between 4 and 10. Now, again, there's going to be a little bit of a surprise here, though, in terms of that 4 and 10. Let's take a look at what that surprise is. All right, so we got UTERS. So what's interesting there is that, like we saw, starting with a 0, index 4 is the U, like we expected. However, notice that it stopped printing when it reached the letter S, which is actually the 9th character. Now, even though I put the 10 there, it doesn't include the 10th character. So it's inclusive of the first index, and it's exclusive of the second index. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, wait, why is that? Why would it do it? Well, that's because whoever wrote the string class made it work that way. Okay? So they took it from the beginning index to the ending index, exclusive of that ending index. So whoever wrote the code for the string class made it do that. And if we look at, the quick reference that we'll get, again, when we take our AP test, it says right here, returns the substring beginning at from and ending at 2 minus 1. So you see what they're saying there is that it's one character early of the index okay, 2. So it doesn't go all the way up to that second index. So again, I really recommend that you kind of experiment with this a little bit more and try some things on your own. So like for instance, if I put a 2 here and a 5, let's try to predict what we're going to get. Okay, so again, starting at 0, so 0 is C, 2 through 5, however, we don't include 5. We only get 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to get letters M, P, U is what my prediction is. Okay, so let's see right here what happens. Sure enough, I got letters M, P, U. Okay, now I know the O looks like the second letter, and it seems like maybe we should include the T, but that's not how it works. We begin our indexing at 0, and we don't include that second index when we're using the substring method. Again, I really encourage you to play around with the substring method a little bit more on your own and experiment.